Welcome to the show, everyone. This is how to get accepted into your dream college channel and show for so many series to come. And the focus really is to kind of break down the college admission process. And today I have three amazing guests, and I'll give an intro real quick as well. I'm Eno, and I kind of started the show for a couple reasons. One is, I went through the same journey as any students in high school. Actually, was not born in the US, but was born in Asia, and I came to the US very early on and had this American dream and didn't really know what I was doing. So I really wish I had a counselor, advisor to help me through the college application process. But this is more my way of giving back what I have learned over the years. And I have a huge passion for education, want to give back to the students. So that's why I wanted to do this, to kind of help the students to get into their dream schools, to help understand the college admission landscape. And also I'm part of a org, mentoring service and consulting services with Mohsin here on the call. We are part of an org called CATMID, and he can kind of go more into details what that is and what we provide and the history behind it. But our mission really is to help students understand and plan and to get into colleges and understand what college is best for them. And I kind of want today's conversation center around different aspects of the college application process. And it's not just about undergrad. There's graduate application, there's transfer, there's international for students that are outside. And you don't even have to be a student. Somebody can just be interested in education and to kind of apply. So I brought on three special guests, Mohsin, Calista, and Michael, to offer their perspectives on a different college application process. And also with us, we also have special guests, Jenny Johnson, and a couple folks, and then we can, have a great insightful conversations about each of our experiences, best strategies and tips, and key takeaways, and any Q&As as well. So I'll turn it over to my special guests. I'm super excited about them. I've worked with them or been really great friends with them, and some of them are even in education space very, very deeply. So very passionate, just like me. And I'll first turn the mic over to Mohsin, my partner here. We started CATMID, and Mohsin is one of the most passionate people I've met who just cares so much about their students and about their journey as well. So Mohsin, why don't you give a quick intro?
Yeah, thank you very much. Thanks for the great introduction, and hello to everyone who have joined in. Thanks for joining us tonight in California and in the morning in Pakistan right now. So I'm right now based in Pakistan. So initially when I planned to go to the US, so I had like so many things to do. I didn't know where to start and where to finish. And I just like completely crazily started to browse on the internet, like what are the application requirement, what does an international student has to do to apply to a good university in the US. But I was completely, confused with the overwhelming, responses there on some of the chats that I get to know about, like some of the forums that I joined. But I still, at that time I was like completely confused. Then like step by step, it took me like months to know like what is the path to get to a good college in the US. So I think that was something, the idea behind, and that turned out to be a brainchild of me. And then later I joined hands with Eno and the other team members who we come up like with an idea to form the CADMIT, which means college admissions. So this college admissions, this CADMIT is a platform that's helping students to get into really good colleges in the US or the college of their choice. Because initially when I applied, so I didn't have any help of a counselor and educational counselor who could guide me through the process and who could counsel me at times when I really felt like I am having anxiety or I am like really confused about like which path to go for or what really do I need to go, like which specialization should I apply. But I mean, through that tumultuous journey, and I would say like there was like some people like their unwavering support really helped me to get to UC Berkeley. And then I graduated from the Berkeley School of Law back in 2020 with an LLM in business, with a business law specialization. So I'm grateful to the people, but now through this platform, we have a team of people who are technical, who are in the market, or who have experienced this journey and how difficult is it. So we are here to help the people to get to a straight path, path of their choice and something like to have a prosperous future ahead. So thank you very much. Thanks for the team, and thanks to the Eno who joined me, and we are now collaborating with each other to take this platform to a next level and helping students not only in the US or in Pakistan, but across the globe whosoever is interested in studying abroad, especially in the US universities.
Cool. Now I'll hand over to Calista. Calista and I, have worked as well in helping students, and she is currently, in her PhD program, and is, not many people nowadays are not just going beyond bachelor's, but going to master's and PhD. So that's a huge, huge ambition, and also very, very hard work, and very impressive with her pedigree and where she has come to now, and really excited about where she's going. So Calista, I want to hand the mic over to you to give a quick intro about yourself.
Hey everyone, so I'm Calista. I am a PhD candidate in molecular biology at the University of Southern California. I'm currently researching damage accumulation and mutation rates in aging bacteria. And prior to that, I was an undergraduate at the University of Missouri. And I'm just interested in helping everyone kind of navigate the path of higher education, because I come from a family where I didn't have anyone that really went to college to kind of pave the way for me. So I kind of had to figure it out all on my own. So I'm here to kind of just help kind of guide the next generation into graduate school and undergraduate.
I mean myself there. Thank you, Calista. That's awesome. Thanks for the intro, and excited to have you on the show. Now, last but not least, Michael. So Michael and I went to school together, and ever since he's been very involved in education and has been giving back, and not only that, but pursuing higher ed. So Michael, give a quick intro about yourself.
Thank you for the warm welcome, So right now I hold a master's degree in psychology, and I'm currently working as an education consultant, helping students to find out that the educational path and sort of pave the way and then guide them along until they reach to a certain level of independence that they are able to finish the education and let them go. My background is that I came to America when I was 16. I joined the American high school during junior year, and I wasn't able to apply directly to any college when I was in senior. So I chose to go to community college. And during the community college, I think we have a common thing over here. Sounds like none of us really get a guidance, and then we sort of figure this thing out, and then we think that was really important, because without figuring out, I was sort of struggling what I was supposed to do to transfer to a good college, because I really want to go to a good college at the time. And luckily my cousin, he figured out the transfer, and then he gave me some guidelines, some mentorship, and I was able to successfully transfer to UC Berkeley, and then that's how I met So I had my molecular cellular biology bachelor's degree from UC Berkeley, and then I started my own student counseling practice to help students to find meanings in their own learning. And how do I do that? Is through helping them to figure out what's their educational plan, and providing the tools and resources along the way, so they can feel like they have a buddy who's sort of study with them, having discussion about what's their interest, what kind of college is best fit for them, what's their ultimate career goal, right? I think what I really missed when I was in college is that I did not have a counselor to talk about what my career goal is. And so during the time, I was really lost. I couldn't figure out what class is important. I didn't know what knowledge is important to learn. So that's why I'm really into this education space, because I think um, it's not that the schools are not doing enough, but they're doing their best. But I think there's something missing over there, and so my goal right now is trying to help as many students as possible to find their own meaning in their own education, so they can be self-driven and take ownership of their own learning. And that's why I'm all in this. And I've been doing this for about 6 years. It has been a very rewarding career. Now I'm also working with a few startups, working on a similar idea. For example, they want to develop leadership. So we're designing this 100-day challenge that any middle school student can start a project from day one to day 100, and then they will have a platform to have a voice. And I thought it was really cool. So I'm designing curriculum for them. I'm also working with another company. They're currently working on an AI system that will be able to help students to develop life skills and school skills through nudges. So like those daily notice, daily encouragement, daily message to get them on the right track, but not like nagging them, but just being friendly. We want to gamify the process. So I feel like they're playing a game of life to become a successful student. So that's how I've been working on recently. And then also working on a handful of students at the same time.
Busy as always, Michael. Thanks for the quick intro there, and it's very inspirational on the projects that you're working on. Definitely, students definitely need them. So that's awesome. Just goes to show we all come from different facets of life, and we all bring different particular value to students and help them succeed. So thank you for the intro. Thank you for coming on, and
Of course,
thank you for the audience to come on as well and participate. Feel free to ask me any questions during. Now I want to kind of dive in here and kind of learn a little bit about the kind of what Mohsin mentioned about CATMID. So Mohsin, can you kind of just give a quick history, kind of your vision and why you founded CATMID, and maybe just a quick overview on what that is about?
Yeah. So initially, when I began my college admission process for the US, so I was really confused about how to get into the US college. It was really difficult. I mean, I was completely overwhelmed with the idea with the things that what to do and what not to do. And then, I mean, with some unwavering support of a few colleagues, a few friends, I get to know about the right path to get to the US college. But it took me months to realize like what's the way. And I really made a document for myself, like what step do I need to do, and each time I used to keep a track of those steps. But it was really a difficult task for anyone who has to go to the US. I mean, especially the people from our country, from people who have never been to the US before or have never attended a US college. So it's really difficult for them to keep a track on, and the changing requirements, especially in the pandemic. We saw that there were like many requirements that were changed, like the SATs were completely waived off. The universities didn't require them, so there were like an online test were introduced by the universities to the student. So I think, I mean, during those times especially, and we don't know when the pandemic would be ending up and the new requirements would be coming up with each day passing. So we initially, CADMIT was formed in the pandemic last year. So we came up with the idea. So it was a brainchild of me. and another friend of mine who we come up with an idea that why not to form a platform, why not to form an organization that helps students to get into the right college without any hassle. So they do not have to really search and browse and do not have to run to some people, to some counselor who really do not, the local counselors who really do not know about the admission process, the competitive admission process in the US. And why not to help them to land into their dream colleges? Because at the end, everyone wants to get to a good college, want to have that name tag to attach to their name. So I think that's when the college, when the CADMIT idea came up. And initially I was also helping, like after my graduation from UC Berkeley, as I did my LLM in business law specialization from Berkeley School of Law. After that, I really helped like so many people without like informally, without any official tag name. I helped students to get into their dream colleges. Then I realized when the student came up with like different question, and some of the applications that they like, some of the students that I dealt with were those the cases that had really gone to a wrong path because of some counselors that they had been through who had helped them, and they were really depressed. They were really had like anxieties, like what has happened to the application process, and they might not get into the dream college. So I like delve into the process, and I really helped them to get into the dream college. So that's where the CADMIT came in. So CADMIT means the college admissions. So this is a little bit about history, and then I ran into Eno through a mutual friend, and then we realized that what we need to do, the different strategies that we need to work on, and then we had taken up the CADMIT, but due to some time, because of the pandemic, students were really not. I mean, they didn't want to travel in the pandemic, so the college admission process for the international student really stopped to a level. So it was just the local student who were, I mean, ready to apply to the universities, because one factor that we need to consider for the international student is that the funding process also. So it's a great amount of money, great amount of like so much dollars that they need to put into the universities for each semester or per annum. So this was also like one of the reasons that we had like a little bit held ourselves a little bit back.
That's awesome. Awesome story. Also, thank you for sharing. Yeah, I think just have you back. I remember when you found me and we were talking, I was instantly hooked by your vision, by your mission statements. And I immediately saw your heart for these kids and for students that were in similar shoes. So definitely a huge passion. And I totally resonate with that, and instantly wanted to help you with your mission. So that's great.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, and really, you know, with CADMIT, it's your vision behind it really, and our vision behind it really is to be the premier consulting services for, you know, international applicants, and not just that, but, you know, for undergraduate, any type of people from all walks of life, you know, across culture, across socioeconomic factors, and different races can come across that barrier and be able to really pursue higher education for their future. And you can speak to that. And I also kind of went through the similar process as well, you know, coming from Asia and then to here, went through my kind of high school process, a little bit lost, not really sure what tests to take, how to plan myself, and eventually put in a lot of work, stumble upon things, and ended up over at UC Berkeley. So definitely a rocky process, but nevertheless, want to come back now to help advise students on what the best practices can be and what college admission officers are looking for. So awesome. Thank you for that overview. Kind of sharing some of the services you guys are providing. I'll drop your contact about CADMIT, about what you kind of want the students to take away from over in the comment section. But for now, I want to take a dive and go into 4 different areas I spoke about earlier: undergraduate, international, graduate, and transfers. How I want to split up the conversation and topics. So kind of focus, you know, in on undergrad process. I want us and the audience to kind of take away, like, one, what our personal experiences with our college planning, with our college application process, And two, if you can touch on the requirements for college application and some of your best strategies. And after you got into college, kind of talk about how were your experiences, any expectations that were aligned, misaligned, and just overall experience. If you do it again, what would it be? I can go first here. So I already alluded to earlier that I went to school for primary and secondary. Well, I'll start with Asia. So I grew up in Taiwan and went through very, very different education process compared to the US. So Mohsin, we're talking about international experiences, totally relate. I came from somewhere where it's all about rote learning, mechanical, I had to memorize a lot of things. And sometimes you get whipped if you get an 89% on your test. Over to, and it's also very long, right? We're talking about you go to school at 8 a.m. all the way to like 4 p.m. and then you have to go to prep school after that. So it's a lot of learning. And after I finished second grade, I came to US. So I came to California and I kind of started primary education there. Finished elementary school, struggling with English, didn't speak a single word, right? And then went through middle school. Finally, English was improving, and then eventually high school is where I got most of my information on what to do for college really through my friends. So I was in the library a lot. I was kind of surfing the web a little bit, but was a little bit lost and really didn't really pick up the pace until my sophomore, junior, and senior when I realized the importance of the AP classes, which we'll get into making a different session. But it's kind of advanced courses that you can take to increase your GPA and also to make you prepare and ready for college courses. And also tests is something that we're going to cover as well. SAT, ACT, which ones to take, and also your college application, which colleges to go to, right? Your college research. And eventually I went through all that and got into UC Berkeley by luck. I actually applied to all the UC colleges and then I applied to the East Coast, a couple Ivy Leagues, and then applied for a couple ones in the Midwest, like Chicago, and then also in Texas as well. And then also a couple of Cal State. But I was lucky that I got into all the UCs. And eventually I was pretty much decided on Berkeley after going through the criteria, want a different environment. And based on my major, I chose Berkeley. That would be the best fit. So that was my experiences, and I'll kind of open it up to Calista. Do you want to share a little bit about your own college experiences and your undergrad and kind of the planning process that you went into it?
Sure, yeah. So for undergrad, it was a little bit different for me just because I was kind of from a smaller area and my family didn't really go to college. So I was mainly reaching for the state school of the state I was from, Missouri. So whenever I was applying for undergraduate, I was mainly looking at what that school required and the specific things that they needed me to have in order for me to go there. So for me, it was I had to take the ACT, which was the standardized test that they needed, and I took all of the upper level classes that my high school did offer, which wasn't as many as some of the larger schools in the area, but all that they had to offer, I did try to take as much as I could and just try to do as well as I could. And that ended up getting me actually automatic acceptance into the University of Missouri. And then I can kind of touch on how I used that to get into graduate school in the later sections.
Talk a little bit about the requirements for your specific college and what, from your point of view, what really helped you in getting into the school of your choice and some of your best strategies.
Okay, so for Mizzou, it was a specific ACT score was the main thing that they were looking for, and a specific GPA requirement. So they had publicly advertised that, and that was available on their website. And for me, one of the biggest factors deciding where to go into college was a lot of it was financial reasons. So for me, that school was an in-state school, and so that actually allowed me to have in-state tuition. So that was a big reason why they were one of the top schools on my list at the time for undergraduate. And then I kind of knew I am in the science field, so typically we have to go on to more schooling after undergraduate. So I kind of figured I could reach for maybe a larger university or more research-based university once I got to graduate school. And just tips that I kind of have to get in is just one of the things is kind of do your research. For my case, that was a big thing of just like they publicly advertised what they wanted, so I could look into that and kind of reach for that. And then just make sure that you are kind of putting in the work whenever you are early on, like in high school. Really try to reach for those classes that are like the classes you're going to be taking in college, so you can kind of prove that you are already a good candidate for college because you're already reaching at that level.
Absolutely. Those are great tips and strategies. And that's so cool that you went to Mizzou. And I'm sure a lot of people on this call and the audience probably have no idea about Mizzou, never heard of it, and I kind of want to kind of have you kind of describe your college a little bit. Like, what is Mizzou? What is Mizzou like? Because for a lot of people, they kind of choose college based on, okay, let me just go to US Best News, college ranking. Let me just look at the top 10, right? People have heard of Harvard, they have heard of Princeton, they have heard of Yale, right? But then a lot of them don't really know these hidden colleges that are actually great for bang for the bucks, great for your also education as well. That are just like, because they in the Midwest, or whether they're kind of not as well known, students, they don't know how to find these schools. So can you spend some time talking about what kind of school Mizzou is for those who may be interested in schools in the Midwest?
Sure. So the one really nice thing about Mizzou and a lot of schools, just state schools in your area, is that they typically offer a lot of things. So that was a nice thing for me, is that, it didn't have to be one of the top 10 universities. They still had the major that I needed, which was at the time I was wanting to do biological sciences, which they offered that. And then they also, on top of that, on top of the classes, they also provide an atmosphere to do research. So that's also another thing, is that even though it is not necessarily in the top 10, it still is providing that good atmosphere to get the skills that I need to go on and still do well in my career.
Thank you for that overview. And yeah, for those of you who are kind of interested in colleges and doing your research, don't just focus on whatever is the top 10 list. There's great schools like Mizzou that Calista mentioned that you might not even know if you didn't really do your research right. So there are a lot of schools that have to focus on the fit. It's not just highest rank or most reputation, but it's also about, like, does it meet your finance need? Does it fit you culturally? Do you like a bigger school, smaller school? Do you want more attention, and so forth? So thank you, Calista, for that. Michael, I know you have a little bit untraditional undergraduate experience, and that you went through the transfer process. So I kind of want to also hear a little bit. We'll have a whole session for you on the transfer piece, but can you just like touch a little bit on your undergrad experience and just your approach and decisions that you made, as well as some of the don't touch on the requirement just yet, but just kind of more on the high level, kind of your path for your undergrad experience.
Okay, so when I was deciding about which college I'm going to, I think that's It's something that people don't do enough college research about. And then during the time, I wasn't sure that what I wanted to do. All I knew is that doctor is a good career path. That's what my parents want me to have. And along the way, I've been to some of the volunteering in the hospital, and I don't think I like that. But I was so deep into biology because when I was about second year in my transfer, I already have in a biology course. Even though I wanted to switch to a business major, I wasn't be able to because I in the middle of the transfer, most of my classes are in biology, and I'm actually good in biology. It's just that I did not want to pursue medical school. And my undergrad experiences, it was still fine because I just choose to study what I like to study. I really like human biology, human psychology, and then what I studied in undergrad was molecular cellular biology, emphasizing neurobiology. And that's something that's still really interesting, and I really enjoy studying. And so, even though I did not pursue a medical school as I set it out to do, um, I still ended up getting a master's degree in psychology and doing something with human psychology, which I'm super fascinated of, and that's why I apply every day into all the education um, things that I help with other people.
Thank you, Michael. That is awesome. That just goes to show that, college is a time where your choices will change, right? I go in as an engineer, but then came out as a business major. So Michael is a perfect example where your choices can change based on experiences, but don't worry about it. Don't pigeonhole yourself into any major, into any study. There's always going to be, your path is always laid out for you. And doesn't matter if it goes through different windy roads, like you'll eventually get to where you want to be. So thank you, Michael. So now I'll kind of also provide a quick perspective about just my own experiences when it comes to UC Berkeley before we turn over to international application process. So I myself and also Michael went to UC Berkeley, and speaking about just a quick experience over at Berkeley, a lot of UC schools are the same. So they're all public, and so UC Berkeley particularly is on semester system compared to a lot of them are in quarter system, and that just gives yourself more flexibility and more time to yourself to study a lot more things. And I also really enjoyed the classes that I was doing. You take some time to get used to with the rigor in college versus in high school. I think high school is more structured, right? Like, from 8 a.m. all the way to 2 p.m. what time, and you have a block schedule. But then over in colleges, you're kind of an adult and you kind of pick which courses and what time you want, and you can make it really creative. You can have multiple different majors. That's really cool. And another thing what I really like about colleges is that I was by myself, and you're there to make a lot of friends, and you're far away from home, and you get to do a lot of things you're passionate about. Sports, I did a lot of sports. I joined a lot of clubs, and it's the time to get really involved, to kind of get out there and to not just have fun, but also can explore your studies, your fields, and you learn a ton. UC Berkeley is a huge research university, so we have these huge libraries where you have access to so much information, and you also have great masters and PhD programs over there. We have a lot of professors there who have won Nobel Prize, and it's also a really cool place. Berkeley is in the Bay Area, it's in Oakland, and you have access to San Francisco. So it's a really cool spot for me. I really had an amazing time there. And some of my best tips and strategies getting to UC Berkeley and also UC school in general is really, there's really a list of things that you have to make sure that you hit, right? Just classes that you take, plan out that well, starting with freshman year, 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th grade. what different classes you should take, think about AP classes, think about IB classes. And then secondly is tests. So SAT, ACT, you guys have heard of. Recently with the whole COVID situation and kind of how the education landscape has shifted, some schools do not require those tests anymore, but they still play a role in your financial applications, in financial aid applications, sorry, and also in scholarship. So don't forget that. And then another thing is just extracurriculars, right? I know I personally I worked in high school and I did extracurriculars. For example, I was part of track and field. I was part of basketball team. And I know Calista also did sports as well, a lot of extracurriculars, you were in band. And I just want to touch on the importance of that when you guys are planning for college application. They really look at you like you're planning for a job. You need a resume and you have to show what you have done besides just studying. So that's really important. And then of course, obvious, the GPA piece, which comes with coursework. And lastly, essays. That's where you have a chance to really show the college admission officers beyond just a score, beyond just a number. You get to tell a story about yourself. So yeah, I'll leave it at that. We'll spend future sessions have more focused topic around those requirements. Now I'll kind of turn it over to international application process with Mohsin. Mohsin, do you want to give a quick kind of overview about the international application process and your own experiences with it, as well as your best strategies?
Yeah, sure. So I think like when it comes to the international, either the grad or the undergrad student applying to the big colleges, the colleges or any colleges in the US, it's totally a different experience in contrast to those who are applying locally, the US citizens. So when I applied to UC Berkeley, one of the things that was in my mind, and I just reiterate what you said earlier, is that do not go for the big colleges, do not go for the big name, but always go for the specialization or for the kind of courses that you want to study. For me, choosing Berkeley School of Law was not because of its name, not because it's like one of the top 5 institutes, law schools in the world, but it was because of the specialization that they were offering, that I did the business law specialization, since they have like good professors and reputable, as you said, the Nobel laureates. So they have those teaching us, and especially the books that I read in my bachelor's when some of the professors that I would who taught me during my Masters of Law Studies. So I had like already been through their books when I was in the undergrad here in Pakistan. So I think that was something that really amazed me, and I really wanted to learn more about those topics. So I just went to UC Berkeley, and especially the courses, some of the finest courses that they were offering, they were not being offered by the other universities, by the other law school. So that made my choice to go to the Berkeley, and especially the diversity that I want to talk about. The US universities are the bastion of the like culture diverse universities. So that I just wanted to contribute to be a part of it and learn about the culture diversity that they have in the US universities. So there were like so many factors to be considered, and that made my way and made me think like why made me join the US universities. But one thing that I just want to say that I just want to give a quick overview about the required documents for the application is that you need to have your transcripts. For example, like if I just talk about the law school, so you need to have your transcript, and they need to be sent to a law school admission council that called LSAC, where they would be verified, and that a report would be generated that would be sent to the law school that you would be applying for. But it's just for the law school. But in general, you need to have your transcript if you're applying from Pakistan or from any other country. In the South Asia, you need to have your transcript ready, and they would be sent to the university or to any department that you're applying for. Either it could be for the undergrad or for the grad, so depending upon which degree you want to go for. And then there is resume. So resume is something that just briefs the admissions committee, the admission counselors over there about like, why do you want to get into the university? What experience do you bring in, and how, culture diversity is one thing. You have this nationality and you would be contributing culturally to that. But what experiences, what value you would be bringing to the university? Of course, US universities, what I think is like they're very much vertical about like what achievement do you have in past and how much would it be contributing to the society as in general or to the class you would be in. And I think from people over here, there's a misconception that they tend to make like long resumes. It could be cool to like, I've seen like people who have made like 5-page resume, which is like going crazy. No one just goes like, because there's a particular format for the US that's like a 1-page document. So you need to condense everything, your achievement, your past experiences, what have you done in past, like what degree did you do? So you just need to condense it to 1-page document, that resume, a U-style resume. And no one would go beyond that 1-page resume because no one have time, because they have like up to like so many thousands of applications, while they would be spending like their value time on like reading the long histories, what they have done in the past. So you have to be very much careful about the resume. And yes, of course, when you're applying for the masters, you need GRE or GMAT, depending upon the program. If you're applying for the masters in business administration, you might need the GRE, GMAT, depending upon the university requirement. And when you're applying for the undergrad, you need SAT, ACTs, LSAT for the law school. So it depends upon, and you need to have a good score when you're applying for some good really universities, because the merit just goes high and high each year. It just goes above. I've never seen that it's just gone down. Even in the pandemic, I've seen that it was like quite high, whereas I was thinking the opposite. And then for the international applicants, it's always good to have a proof of English language. By having a proof of English language proficiency, I mean, they need to give a few tests. It could be IELTS, English language test. It could be TOEFL. That's also a US test that just give an evaluation about like where do you stand. So it gives an idea to the university that where do you stand, or whether you would be needing an English language course when you would be applying, like after you would get admitted, or you would still join the program. So it's necessary. Otherwise, you might not get an acceptance by the universities if you are missing the English language test. It's mainly for those countries who do not have English as their first language, but countries who have their English as their first language, so they do not need to have this proof of English. They do not need to provide this language proficiency test. They just need to give the test course of SAT or GMAT, depending upon the program you're applying for. And then the most important is the motivation letter, or the statement of purpose we call. So this is something that really helps you. Like if I would say, I might not be able to like give it a specific percentage, but I say that it plays a considerable part in your application, a major part in your application. When you're applying to university, you have to convince the admissions committee, what are you bringing in? Who are you? Why they should be you? Why you should be the one amongst the thousands of applicants and to study at a particular university, be it UC Berkeley, be it Harvard, be it some other college. So why they should be. So this is the way. I mean, because of course you would not be able to, because in many of the universities they do not have the interview, so you do not get the chance to meet as in person or to a video call, video link to the admissions committee members. So this is a chance where you explain them about your story, about your history, about your achievements, and why are you interested in the university and in that specific program. So you really have to convince them through your writing. And this is where the counselors come in, and they just make a good story and help you build each step, and I mean, go each step on the ledger. And then there's an application fee, which could also be waived off if you request the financial department, but we can talk later about it in the coming up sessions. And then there's also writing sample, where they need to see what have you done in the past. It could be a thesis, it could be a dissertation, it could be any writing piece, or it could be any journal where you contributed your research article. And this is all about like a quick overview, but of course there are much more to talk about because it's called like each has got its own specific detail that would take time and like would be another topic to talk about in the upcoming sessions.
Thank you for that overview. And as you can see, that this is a lot of requirements for international application. And if you have any questions, Mohsin is the man, has been through it himself, and he is the expert in it. So now, thank you for that, Mohsin. I think it's great perspective you paint on the requirements, and it could be convoluted, and would definitely help if you have an expert to help you along the way. Calista, can you share just a little bit overview on your experiences over at USC and your program and the process, their requirements, some of your strategies you have for the audience.
Yeah, so for USC and I'd say most graduate programs, especially in like the sciences I can speak on, this could go for other fields too, but for me at least, one of the major things is also a standardized test. So I had to take the GRE in order to get into most graduate programs, and some even required what are called GRE subject tests. So it's good to keep that in mind too if you have to take just the GRE standard, or if you have to take individual subject tests as well. And then I actually first reached out to people that I was interested in their research. So instead of just looking at the school directly, I actually looked at more the people and the research side, because that is mostly, as a PhD in the sciences, that's mostly what I'm doing in the graduate school, is doing research. So once I reached out to potential faculty and talked to them to see if they had potential slots in their lab open, that is when I'd actually go and look at the program for the school that that faculty member is at and that they're affiliated with. So then I would look at the program, and in my case at USC, it was molecular biology and computational biology. So then I looked at their program requirements and went through their formal application process, which required letters of recommendation, which I had gotten from my undergraduate mentors in the labs that I did research with in undergraduate, which was also a big part in getting into at least the science field, is doing some undergraduate research on top of your studies. And then I also had to write a personal statement, which kind of just showed why I'm interested in doing the PhD program in the first place and what sort of background I have in science already, and to kind of just highlight what kind of person I am outside of my studies as well. So once I went through that process, then I got invited to actually come out and do a formal interview. So they invited us out for a weekend to interview with multiple different faculty members, in which we just sat down for 30-minute interviews each to just talk with them about, again, what we've done in undergraduate and what we would like to do going forward in graduate school. And then from there, we kind of hear back whether or not we have made it in. So hopefully that gives just like a general interview of how the graduate school application process goes.
Thank you, Calista. Super helpful for the audience here. And, you know, it's very impressive that you can pursue even higher education, you know, PhD to really further your studies. Yeah. So for those of you who are interested in this path, you know, definitely explore more and, you know, seek expert advice on the requirements, on, you know, who we should be talking to. But there's definitely a path for academia and for industry. And for any of you who are extremely passionate about academia and pursuing that, you know, Calista has walked through that path, and she can attest that, you know, she had a lot of passion in it. And would you do it again?
Yes, I would definitely do it again. I definitely am at the point where I see the light at the end of the tunnel. So it's a lot easier for me to say that now than maybe midway through, but definitely good to know the reason why you're doing it and keep that in mind the whole time.
There you go, folks. So that's the, thank you, Calista, for providing perspective on master's and PhD, super helpful. And now save the best for last, Michael. I want to kind of pick your brain on your experiences with transfer application and your experiences there. And also you can provide some tips and recommendations for the audience.
Also, transfer application is probably the easiest among all the other applications process that we just talked about. Transfer application is pretty easy. you just have to meet all the lower division courses that you need to take through this website called assist.org. And once you go to assist.org and then find out that which community college do you go to, and then what's their agreement with the UCs or any other colleges that they have agreement with, and they will let you know what the courses that you need to take. And then once you have be able to take all the courses, just apply through just like a regular application as a high schooler. Some differences might be different prompts in terms of personal statement. They might want to ask you, why did you want to pursue this major? Because once you transfer from a community college to a four-year university, you started as a junior in college. So you only have 2.5 years to finish the rest of the degree. So they want to make sure that you are committed to the major that you want to apply to. So a lot of colleges might emphasize on that question a lot more than asking about what's your dream, or um, less exploratory and more on how committed you are to this subject. That'll be the only difference. But other than that, um, transfer students really don't have to do anything regarding extra curriculum. You don't have to join any club. Just take care of your GPA, write a nice personal statement, take all the classes that are required to transfer, and then you're good to go.
Nice. That is awesome, Mike. Can you touch also a little bit about the pros and cons?
Mm-hmm. So I think the pros is definitely economical. You can save a lot of money by studying near your home state, just like Calista. Um, you can also, I mean, community college are essentially free. I did not pay for a penny to my community college, 2 years in community college, and then they also gave me financial aid to supplement, let's say, learning materials. So it's a really nice way to save a lot of money, especially if you go to community college near home. That's definitely the pros. I think also it's less intimidating because I think when you are in four-year university, it's like it can be very competitive, right? If asked, the first 2 years in Berkeley was quite competitive, right? So you might be very overwhelmed with all the academics requirements and not having enough time to think about why you are in this major. So I think when you're in community college, when it's less competitive, you have more space to think about whether you really want to commit to the major, because that will determine what your first job is going to be. Um, it will become a big part of your identity. So I think that's the pros. Cons wise, you don't get to enjoy the four-year college life. So the first 2 years, while I'm sure when Eno was partying with other people, I'm just staying home playing video games, right? Because you don't have college friends in community college. They're all either working people, they're working part-time, or they live at home. There's no party in community college. So you probably miss the college experience a little bit. And then it was kind of hard for you to break into the already existing social circles after you transfer. So I wasn't able to join a lot of different clubs because I'm like the transfer student, right? And then while they're already a cohort moving from freshman year to throughout the years. So that could be a little bit hard, but it wasn't too difficult for me because I'm a friendly person. But I can see that it could be difficult for a lot of students who are not confident with their social skills. Um, but also that's pretty much it. I think it's ultimately a choice because I think life really starts after you graduate from college, right? So I wouldn't say that missing that 2 years of partying time is a big part of it. Um, uh, yeah, it really just depends on what you want. So like a lot of things that we talked about earlier is about fit. I think one of the great thing about education in America is there are many different paths to get a degree. I remember I was talking to this Harvard MD PhD candidate, and he was telling me that there are at least 6 ways to go to medical school, and most of people only know 2 ways. And he said that that's the beauty of the American education system, is that you can always piece things together and you can get through. And if you can piece things together, it's just whichever fits you the best. And I think that's the, that's kind of what it is.
Thank you, Michael. Absolutely agree with you. Folks, you've heard it. If you want an economical way of getting into colleges, you don't have to spend a ton of money for private schools. You know, Michael's transfer application process is another venue to do so. And as you can see, there's different ways, like Michael said, to get into colleges. There's no, a cookie cutter way. So explore your options. And as you can see from, today, all the conversations that we had, kind of going through undergrad, grad, transfer, international, there's all different facets of college application process that doesn't matter where you are on the journey, you can definitely excel. But there's definitely strategies to help you get there, to make your life a lot easier and also make your experience a lot better, knowing that you're in the right college for you. Thank you, everyone.